and it's basically, we don't have to do this today, but it's what I would like you to do. And then we can talk about whatever you want to during it as well. But it's just like your rise to fame, how you initially got famous, what you were doing when you got famous, how you got to where you are now, how things are going now for you, any advice you have to people who want to follow in your footsteps. And I think in your particular case, because you're in the commentary community, and you're critical of people, like what advice you would have to people like me who want to avoid your gaze. Like, what is it that I've been fucking up that you want to avoid? And I mean, that's the premise of the podcast. We can do that structure if you want to, or we can just get into the meat of the criticisms you have about me as well.
Okay. I thought this was like you had some questions about my video or something.
We've got a mighty interesting video to discuss today. Turkey Tom, aka Tom Dark, aka Tom, recently posted an hour and a half long interview with Boogie2988. He had just made about an hour long documentary talking about Boogie, and Boogie's been a topic of conversation for Tom for a while. Just all the events that have gone on in Boogie's life, and most recently, a lot of people thought that we might see some sort of redemption arc from Boogie and from Wings. And Wings saw it for a brief second. I don't think it's gone very well since then. But Boogie, I think this interview will indicate that he is still the same person that we've always known. He hasn't changed at all. Tom goes into this thinking that Boogie, they got into a spat on Twitter. Boogie saying some offensive and hurtful things towards Tom. And Tom thought that this whole thing was just going to be Boogie asking Tom questions about or disputing facts about his documentary. However, this mostly turns into Tom reopening the wounds that he mentions in his video and having Boogie respond to it. So it's kind of a mess. It's not that surprising. Boogie doesn't really know what he's doing. It is a lot of self-pity, as you would expect, and it's also kind of infuriating, but I think Tom holds his own pretty well throughout this video. So we're going to go over several points, and without further ado,
Twitter accounts or something?
You definitely do. You do. For
no,
sure.
I don't.
Yeah,
I genuinely
you do.
don't.
Yeah, you do.
No,
yes,
I genuinely don't.
Yes, you do.
I mean, like, I won't disagree that those Twitter accounts are fake. But it's not me running them. I'm not
Boogie. Who else would be running those accounts, man? Come on,
dude. I have a Kiwi farm of like 500,000 posts. One of those guys, one of the guys who spent like 5 years.
They would just like insult you or call you fat. They wouldn't do that.
I think some of them are smarter than you think they are. But I mean, catfishing happens all the time. I've had 2 or 3 catfishing attempts in the world. So the fact that they're creating female accounts to try to get my attention was not lost on me, and I'm surprised it's lost on you.
But Boogie likes to take this superiority role. He likes to aggrandize, stand up on his little soapbox, and basically try and depict himself as being the morally conscious, the deep thinker, the philosophical mind in these conversations, sort of demeaning Tom at this by saying, "Oh, I thought you would understand this. I thought you would get this. I guess," and the part he doesn't say is, "Oh, well, I guess I'm the intellectual in this conversation." Boogie can pretend like that's not what he means, but that's clearly how it's portrayed. Either way, this whole controversy is essentially Tom calls out Boogie because he believes that Boogie is running these sock accounts that are these like pretty attractive girls on Twitter that leave him compliments on his posts. They only like his stuff. They only focus on him. He replies to them. It's like symbiotic relationship. So he's calling him out, saying that these accounts are made by Boogie, which we can't really prove, but at the same time, it seems likely. Boogie gets hyper offended by everything that is ever said about him. He consciously seeks out people that criticize him. So especially on Twitter, a more vocal place that anybody can really interact with you, it wouldn't be that surprising that he would try and fluff his image by having these sock accounts. Is it possible that his trolls made this? Absolutely. But based off of Boogie's record, it would seem more likely that he's doing this to inflate his own ego. That's my opinion.
No, I know because I'm terrible. My brain doesn't work good. Do you understand that? Do you understand what it's
Yeah,
like?
I do
to be
understand
this-
that. I do
Yeah.
understand. Yes.
And so,
I
like,
do understand
I,
that.
I often speak without thinking. I mean, like, I'm a slave to my own misfunctioning brain. It's insane that I function as a person. I don't think people realize exactly how mentally ill I actually am.
It's just infuriating to listen to Boogie talk. Mind you, he's 48 years old. He's almost 50, and this dude can take zero responsibility for his own actions. This will be a repetitive cycle throughout this entire video of him saying, oh, I'm mentally ill. Oh, you don't understand my traumas, etc. It's like, why are you on the internet then? You know? It's clear that you're a masochist. You desire these people to hate you because you get off on it like some sick freak. It's so frustrating to listen to him always chalk up things and say, well, you know, I'm too unwell to be able to focus on that. I just am not in the right headspace. Or he'll walk it back and say, well, actually, now that you say that, I don't actually mean what I said. He doesn't have an opinion about anything. His only opinion is that he loves himself. He can say he hates himself as much as he does, but if he truly hated himself, we would never hear from him again. This would be the last point we would ever hear from Boogie, right? But he truly deep down does love himself, and he loves himself so much that he's going to try and convince everybody on the internet to love him as well.
Today, but just for the people who tuning in for the first time, who are unfamiliar with what you do, that's bizarre to me because you are now, in my opinion, the largest person in the commentary community. You're the person I go to more frequently than anybody else. But for those of you who don't know you, can you give them a little bit of introduction about who you are and what you do?
I just make videos about Boogie. That's my only interest.
I mean, it's the perfect response, you know, because Boogie spent so much time on Twitter talking smack about Tom, and now he wants to come back and say, oh, this guy's a champion of the commentary community. He's so big, he's so large. I like watching Tom. You know, he's probably my favorite commentary channel to watch, just because I think personality-wise, we line up, our humor lines up. You know, I'm not trying to create a parasocial relationship. I'm just saying compared to the others, but he's clearly not the largest documentary or commentary channel out there. There's tens that are more popular than him. So I think, you know, it looks good for Boogie's audience, but it's clearly just fascination that he's trying to conjure up.
Well, so you heavily implied that you did not state that some of the abuse allegations I've made, or all of the abuse allegations that I've made, are falsified. And that's probably the biggest sticking point that I really was frustrated with in the video.
Okay,
As
well,
you
I'm
saw on
sorry
my
you
Twitter
took it that
feed.
way, but I don't think you actually think that. I think that if you watch the video, which I don't know if you watched that whole portion, I don't know how much you watched. If you watched the video,
I find it very painful to watch these types of videos for me, especially once misinformation is put out there. And so when I see misinformation, I click it off immediately. And that's where I got to with your video. And I mostly skimmed it up to that.
There was no misinformation in the video. And if there was, you would have an easy slam dunk of a video being like, Turkey Tom lied about me, because there's plenty of people that would love to see that.
Tom's 100% right. If there was anything false, or provably false, I should say, then Boogie could easily make a video, get tens of thousands of views, thousands of likes. You know, if he could prove anything in that documentary wasn't true. But he can't. You know, a lot of it's hearsay, a lot of it's whatever. But the issue arises from the fact that Boogie didn't watch the entire documentary. He literally just said he skimmed through it, and then once he hits a point of misinformation, he turns it off. And him saying he watches all of these documentary videos and it pains him to do so, then why does he watch them? Because he's a masochist. He's obsessed with the pain. He's obsessed with hearing what people have to say about him. It's like unhealthy and sick, yet he wants to stand on this platform and try and tell us what's wrong with what we're doing, with what we're saying. How preposterous is that? You know, maybe before you have an entire interview with some guy that made a air quote hit piece on you, maybe you should watch the entire thing and stop taking what Joe Schmo with 6 followers on Twitter is telling you. What an idiot.
my mistake. I'm a
But
very
like,
reactionary
why would
person,
you
you
why
know,
would you do that?
because I'm an idiot. I think you should know that by now. If you're as steeped in lore as
But if
you
you
are, you
have
should know that I'm a low IQ
you're
individual
not low
with
IQ
a
though. Like, you're
new
relatively
eye diverse
intelligent.
brain.
You're relatively intelligent, but if you have like the
Mhm.
self-awareness to know that that's something you do, like you can avoid that behavior.
Yeah, it's I don't know if people really know what it's like to be as mentally ill.
So mentally ill, you guys. Don't you understand? You know, maybe I'm a master manipulator that tries to coerce everybody to think I'm some innocent victim in every scenario I'm ever in. You know, it's like, you're not just some Dumbo moron. You make stupid decisions, but that doesn't make you in yourself an idiot. It doesn't make you low IQ. It makes you somebody with bad decision making, which is evident. But you yourself are not some idiot that can't formulate thoughts or sentences, right? Get off your high horse.
I'm just not equipped for it. I'm glad that you're equipped for that. I've never been equipped for that kind of hate. I don't know how to deal with it. And I would say that I got it at a considerably higher level than most. I think there are definitely
But
people
why
out
do
there
you
like
think you
Wings,
got it at a higher level?
because my
Think it was
subreddit had
random?
the largest numbers for the most part. Oh, you mean like at random? I think part of it is my weight. I think I am extremely fat, and a lot of people have issues with that.
You can't handle the criticism, you shouldn't be online. That's step one. And he knows that, but he's not going to make that change. You know, it's whatever. It's mute at that point, because he's going to keep preaching this, that he gets so much hate and that it destroys his mental capabilities. Yeah, he'll remain. He'll stay here. He'll stick around. At the same time, he can't even reflect on why do people dislike me so much? Why are there so many hit pieces on him? Because he's not a notoriously interesting lolcow, right? He falls in the same category as like DSP and Wings. He sits around, he makes some videos, yada yada, but he says some of the dumbest things, and he'll just chalk it up, oh, it's my mental health, I'm delusional about things. It's like, give me a break. Give me a break. So what, you're completely infallible? If you ended up actually shooting Frank Hassel and killing him, is that just, I'm just supposed to chalk it up as, well, this guy, he's insane. He had no thoughts of his own. He was completely taken over by the mind virus. It's like, what? Come on.
Yeah, but I think you said in that one set of screenshots more racist shit than I said in the last 20
That's
years.
definitely not true.
I made a joke about people of color being broke because I thought historically people of color in this nation have not been given the opportunity to build wealth, and I thought people would get that joke.
Yeah, that's really why you were saying that, or just because you thought it was a funny racist joke, Boogie? There was a great,
that's what was going.
There was a great joke about like institutionalized oppression.
This is what all these like woke type people on the internet try and do. They try and retcon their history to try and rework what they actually mean. Him saying $3, that must be a lot for the African or a minority community, or whatever he said. It's like, okay, yeah, you're making a petty racist joke. Who cares? Who really cares? You know, I can't comprehend why everybody is so sensitive. Outside of them wanting to control what you think and what you say, I can't understand why people are so fixated on being upset about things that don't mean anything. Tom having leaked screenshots of his Discord of him saying the N-word and the F-word to people is like so stupid. It's like, who cares? Who does that affect? You're trying to expose them for being racist? It's like, I just don't understand it. It doesn't compute in my brain, you know? That's my mental illness talking. I can't understand it. I can't get it through my head to understand why making innocent, non-targeted racial jokes is some cancelable, destructive force by so many of these people. It's pathetic.
On my limited capacity of brain power.
Don't you think you should like get off the internet then?
Probably not. It's my only income. I'm a disabled man. I don't really know what else I could possibly do to earn a living. So this is the only thing I feel like I can do.
You could like get like an IT job or something, like normal.
I'm not qualified for it, and I definitely don't have the mental health to hold down a job. I've tried for sure.
I mean, he's just pathetic. He's a loser. He's a failure. I mean, if your mental health is so important that you spend 30 hours a day going to doctors and getting clinical research and doing X, Y, and Z to try and exist as you, why in the world would you stick around? It's stupid. And the argument that all these people make that I'm not qualified to be able to do anything. First off, that's indicative of you spending 15 years on the internet and formulating 0 useful traits to be able to apply in the real world. You know, Boogie always talks about how crappy his content is, and it's like, you had so much time to be able to learn how to make interesting thumbnails, to become a social media influencer, to, whatever, develop your Adobe Suite skills. There's so many different things. He has a background in IT support, tech, making websites, stuff like that. You can freelance that stuff. You don't have to go somewhere to do it. He could do it himself, but he's been so destructive to his own image that it makes it hard for him to freelance that type of stuff. And at the same time, if this is so bad for him, he obviously doesn't care about his weight, because he's taken a baby step to get to the point to where he is now, but he's refusing to take that larger step to get to the finish line. Because he even made that stream about people being upset that his progress isn't moving along, he's staying stagnant, and he said, well, if I want to die from eating, then that's what I'm going to do, I'm going to be happy. And it's like, you have such a defeatist attitude in your life that if you had to leave this, you don't even have the willpower to be able to go do whatever, be a mall security cop, or be a janitor, or work at Walmart or something, be a greeter at Walmart. I'm sure they could have you sit in a chair the entire time doing that. It's just like, it's stupid. It's embarrassing.
No.
Okay. If you've never been morbidly obese, you may not know this, but the majority of weight loss has very little to do with exercise, and mostly about controlling your diet. And any doctor will tell you that. And that's where, again, I don't think people understand my level of addiction, my level of mental illness. I have a lot of trouble controlling the things I do. I have a lot of trouble
these are things that
controlling
you can overcome. You don't just have to accept them for what they are. Like
right, and I work on them every day. I'm in therapy again right now. I just got back into it after this fight because I knew I was going to need it.
Therapy is clearly not enough. Like you're like my dad's age, and you're totally defeatist about this.
Yeah. Did your dad go through the things that I went through, do you think?
It's such a non sequitur. It's a non sequitur. You're 50 years old. Your trauma happened 40 years ago, and it still completely destroys your entire life. And I understand the trauma you went through is horrendous, and it's something I've never gone through. It's not something I can relate to, but you just allowing what your parents did to you to rule the rest of your life. And that's why you haven't amounted to anything, because you have no hope, you have no inspiration to be better. Either way, it's just, it gets hard to sit here and listen to Boogie talk about this so much, because you can't have any point of conversation with him without him immediately saying, my mental health is the problem. And he wants to talk about making these steps to change. He's drinking a Mountain Dew right now while he's recording this. And to my limited knowledge of how weight loss surgery works, you're never supposed to drink carbonation afterwards, because it can completely destroy your stomach. Yet all these locals that get it, like wings, still end up doing it. And it's like, okay, your therapy, maybe that's gonna fix you. Well, clearly not, because maybe it's a step, but it's clearly not the full shebang to fix it. And one of the most obvious things that can make Boogie's life better is if he actually commits, go to food rehab. Take that $10,000 you got, check yourself into rehab, and pray to God that fixes you. Because once you lose weight, your life will be infinitely better. Your self-image will be better. Your desire to seek better, do better will go up. I mean, it's just like, that is the starting line, and he just won't take it.
It sucks, but that's what it is. You know what, I got up today at 10 a.m. Do you know what I've done today? I've done nothing but prepare for this interview so that I would not lose my emotions. I wouldn't cry in front of you. I wouldn't lose my temper in front of you. I have literally played a handful of video games. I talked to my girlfriend. I played with my dogs. I did all of these things so that I would be in the right headspace for this interview, so I wouldn't make a complete and utter ass out of myself.
And it's another factor of him just not being equipped to be a YouTuber, because if this is your full-time job and you've done nothing, you couldn't watch the hour-long documentary in your entire day just so you could know where Tom's coming from. You couldn't even do that. It's too painful for you. But you can sit and play video games and talk to your girlfriend, play with your dogs. You can't even work on a separate video that you could put out later. You couldn't work on anything that goes into your job. I mean, I get it. I understand the anxiety aspect that might come from it. But if it's so debilitating for you to operate, then just cut ties completely. But goes back to the masochism point.
That's why Louis C.K. and Dave Chappelle and Joe Rogan are popular, because they go up and people think it's a joke. They're not popular because neo-Nazis
I would disagree, because we've seen a rise of Nazis who mean it. I mean, you remember I live in Arkansas. I live less than 100 miles from the home of the Klan. They live up in Harrison,
You
100
think they're
miles from my
popular
front door.
because neo-Nazis like them. That's why they're popular.
No, not why they're popular, but it's why it's dangerous for them to make those types of jokes.
We're reaching dangerous territory of him talking about policing speech. It's just like, why should anybody listen to what Boogie has to say about anything? He hasn't accomplished anything. His biggest accomplishment happened, 12 years ago? Longer than that. 16 years ago or something like that. Him falling in the pool was the biggest moment of his life. Life has passed him by. He hasn't made a ton of meaningful changes. Yet he feels like he has the authority to come out here and tell us what we're allowed to, if he be the first one to ship you down the train line when society collapses. When he views you as being against his side, he's gonna call you out and send you away. And he'll do it with a smile on his face, because he doesn't know anything about the real world. He doesn't know anything about himself. And yet, I'm supposed to listen to his opinion. Give me a break.
They go back the other way.
Well, I didn't think they should be in jail, but I was in favor of there being some level of punishment for purposely misgendering somebody. And I still think there's probably some level of punishment that is appropriate for that. I don't think jail time.
Someone?
No, for purposely misgendering somebody. If I sat here and started screaming at you, Tom, you're a girl, you're a fucking girl, Tom, you're a woman, look at you, you don't have a penis. Like, that's a verbal assault. That's messed up. That probably deserves a level of punishment to some degree. In fact, in the United States, verbal assault is punishable by law. So I feel like that is fair if that's the type of verbal assault you're going for. But verbal assault is punishable by law, and I support that. Do you not? If somebody verbally assaults somebody else, you don't think that's punishable by law?
I don't think
it's only messed up if you're so weak-willed and spineless and weak, like Boogie is, that you would let something like that completely turn your life upside down and destroy you. The whole argument is so stupid, because you should be a free speech absolutionist if you're a YouTuber, because you wouldn't want some mega corporation to silence you, which happens now. That's why I have to edit a lot of the stuff I say out, because it wouldn't be acceptable. But Boogie would be completely fine with that, because he thinks that me calling a factual statement true towards a predominant gender or sex is wrong, and I should be lambasted for that. I should be fined for that. That's the beauty of the Constitution in America, is that you don't have to fear that. But what should we expect? You have one mentally ill person supporting a group of mentally ill people. What do you really expect to be the outcome of that?
Do you think there's a good reason for Jesse to be upset, given the fact that this person who had, now you admit, who had f***ed him over, right? Who had personally f***ed him over, then tried to do it to him in public, and what you did was back them up instead of, you know, Jesse.
And so here's what I'm going to do: a classic Boogie backpedal right now, because you've given me some new perspective and new information, and I think you're right. And so I'm going to backpedal from the thing I said 5 minutes ago, and I do this kind of shit all the time. When I'm given new information and a new perspective, sometimes my perspective changes.
The crazy thing about this conversation is Boogie had this friend named Jesse, and this girl that he was friends with that got in an argument. He called Jesse transphobic because he said something towards her. And then Tom asked him, well, what do you know what Becky said about this whole thing? And Boogie explains the entire event. He says, well, I think she was critiquing him because they were having sex and I could hear him and yada yada, and they lived with each other and whatever. And it's like, Boogie, you already had all the information in front of you, and you still willingly chose to turn your back on your friend and stab him and lead the crusade to try and get him canceled. That's why you suck. That's why you're a horrible person. Because you speak all the time without having your tiny chestnut brain comprehend something that you're trying to talk about. And then, once you realize later that you're wrong, you walk right back and jump on that fence ass first. You're right. It's just, it's so frustrating. I get so annoyed listening to this guy talk and talk and talk. Shut your goddamn mouth for once. And then maybe you wouldn't get in so much drama all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I've always known this. I think one of the reasons so many people are so angry about the person that I turned out to be is because they were very invested in seeing me be more successful than I've had in all of these areas. They wanted me to lose more weight. They wanted me to be a better YouTuber. They wanted me to be a better person. And I think you are one of those people. I think you would gladly like to see that, even if it meant you'd make slightly less money, you know?
I think people in the past wanted to see you succeed. I think some people thought that maybe the boxing match might have been a turning point. It's obviously not true. You're still the same vindictive, narcissistic, masochistic person as you've always been. But I think at one point people saw you sitting on a golden egg and refusing to let it hatch and grow to be a magnificent phoenix, you know? You just squandered every opportunity you ever had and then tried to play victim for it. You never worked for anything, and you still expect a handout, especially from your viewers, and you call us horrible people all the time. So go back to Tumblr, leave us alone. And that's going to do it from me. It's a little bit more angry toned than I probably expected it to be, but man, Boogie just, he sucks, dude. He just sucks. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.